Seasoner
and Co.
Welcome to
Second-Hand Haunting,
where we read second-hand ghost stories from a second-hand book I found in a second-hand shop and try and make sense of them.
Fun of them.
Sense of them.
Fun of them.
Sense?
Fun.
All right, fine. Hey, Ollie.
Hey, Callum.
How's it going, man?
Good. How about yourself?
Good. I've been reading through this True Irish Ghost Stories book by John Seymour and Harry Neligan. And I think I've got 3 options today that I hope you will be excited about. You may recall from previous episodes, he was just doing his own incidental research and realised that nobody had put together a bunch of Irish ghost stories before. So he put an ad in a newspaper and said, hey, can I have all your ghost stories? This book is what resulted from that. So I got 3 options for you today. The first is, one of the people who wrote into that just seems to have had the worst luck her entire life with ghosts the whole way through. And we've got like a 13-page saga.
So she's like manifesting ghosts into her life.
A little bit. Honestly, you know the adage of if you meet an asshole, you had a bad day. Mm-hmm. If you meet an asshole every day, maybe you're the asshole.
I never thought of it like that before. Not with that analogy, anyway. Not with the arsehole analogy. Maybe like everybody else has died, and you're actually the arsehole.
Yeah, a little bit. So we could find out why she's had the worst luck, or we could look at 2 other categories of haunting. Now, we've looked at haunted inns before. Mm-hmm. Haunted pubs, haunted houses, haunted prisons, and haunted hotels. Would you like to perhaps look at haunted schools or haunted castles? So you got 3 options there today. The worst luck ever, schools or castles.
Look, all great options, and especially with the school, because it kind of reminds me of Nearly Headless Nick.
Oh, yes.
How can you be nearly headless? But I think that I'm gravitating towards the worst luck.
Okay, all right, let's do it. A lady, Miss Dorothy Emerson, so we get her name, we know who this was, contributes the following account of hauntings in County Cork.
I do like a good, Mrs. X.
Yeah, a lot of the time in this book, they've anonymized the names or just given an initial. No, we know that Mrs. Dorothy Emerson has been through some shit.
I know I'm derailing you right at the start here, but what do you think of Dorothy as a name? Like, I think it just conjures up for me that whole yellow brick road feeling,
I think they're saved by the ability to be called Dot or Dotty.
Ooh, I do like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fun.
Should we pick a nickname for her today?
Oh, look, if you want to call her Dotty, that would be great, but you have to focus for this.
All right. Much of the rest of this episode is going to be quotes from Dotty, and I'm not going to do an accent. 3 times in my life I have lived in haunted houses. I was born in the first, and we left it when I was about 3 years old. So I myself have no recollection of anything that took place, but I certainly saw something there, for my mother has often told me the story since. It appears that one day she was sitting in the drawing room, and I was playing about. She asked me to go upstairs with a message for my nurse, so off I started. Wait a minute. She was in this house until she was 3 years old? Oh, I guess a 3-year-old could be sent upstairs to talk to someone, right?
So you're saying that she was 3 years old and she was sent upstairs, and you're questioning the validity of that action?
Yeah, the mum's like, hey, 3-year-old, go and fetch the nurse.
Well, how long ago was this, though?
Good question. I don't know how old she was when she wrote this, so I'm going to say late 1800s.
Look,
we still put children in coal mines back then, so I guess so.
Well, that's what I was going to say, yeah. So I feel like we care more about the health and well-being of our kids now. I don't want to offend anyone from the 1800s.
They're all dead, it's
They're
fine.
Dead, yeah. Any of the vampires out there, or zombies, or, whatever.
Ghosts.
Or ghosts.
Yeah.
I could genuinely, offend some ghosts. So I don't want to offend the ghosts from the 1800s, but I feel like we're more likely to take care of their health and well-being and not be as worried about sending a 3-year-old up the stairs.
Yeah.
But that being said, it's been a long time since I've spent time with a 3-year-old.
Yes.
So I don't actually know what the cognitive ability of what I'm going to assume is a toddler.
Yeah, I think that's right. A toddler,
bigger
probably
than toddler?
speaking, but maybe not complete sentences. I have a niece. I think she's about 3 years old, so I'm going on that.
I mean, if it was a comedy sketch, I'd probably imagine something along the lines of like, here's this pair of scissors, go fetch the nurse.
Yeah. To take this butcher's knife to nursey. So, off I started, but came back in a few seconds and told her I couldn't go upstairs, as I didn't like to pass the lady in the hall. She asked what I meant, and I told her there was a lady in black sitting on a chair in the hall.
By lady, she means a 12-year-old.
Yeah. Also, eloquent for a 3-year-old, I guess.
Well, maybe she's just very developed.
Yes.
She might have been 3, but she had the intellect of a 6-year-old.
Yeah. Thinking that somebody must have got into the house without being noticed, she went out, taking me with her. To her astonishment, there was no one there, so she asked me where I had seen the lady. I pointed to a large ottoman that stood at the foot of the stairs. What? Who puts an ottoman at the base of stairs? Someone who's trying to kill the nurse, I think.
Yeah, that was going to be my assertion.
Also, we have another rich family here, right? They have an upstairs, they have an ottoman, and a nurse.
I couldn't imagine many people having all of those things in the 1800s. I say that knowing full well that I couldn't imagine having a nurse on staff myself.
Yeah.
And even if I was substantially richer than I am now, and I mean substantially richer, I still don't think I'd have a nurse. I still don't think I could afford to have a nurse. It would have to be so incredibly wealthy for me to be able to say, oh, you know what? I can have people on staff.
Yeah. Look, I'll give the mother credit, though. She hasn't just left the child with the nurse. She's clearly doing some of the child rearing herself. So, good on her. I don't know how many other children there are, though. We might find out.
I'm assuming that the little regard that she gives to her 3-year-old, I think she's got spares.
Yeah. I pointed to the large ottoman that stood at the foot of the stairs and said, "The lady is there." Mother thought it was all nonsense on my part, so she took me by the hand and started for the stairs. But past the ottoman I would not.
Oh, wait. This is top of the stairs.
No, I think that the ottoman is at the bottom of the stairs.
Oh, okay.
So that the mum is like, okay, let's go up the stairs. But before they could get to the stairs, the kid is like, I'm not walking past this ottoman. It's spooky.
No, it's just funny. The more we talk about it, the more I want to visualize an ottoman in a 3-dimensional space and see how it sits in the room. And I feel like that's off track.
Yeah. Again, 13 pages.
Radio. Calming down.
I took a firm stand and said, I won't go past the lady. I did not make a fuss, but she could not make me go past. She herself saw absolutely nothing, but she could see that I did. So wisely, she did not force me. She said nothing about the occurrence to anyone, but a short time after, my nurse saw the very selfsame lady in black sitting on the ottoman. Apparently that's all we're getting for House 1.
Oh, okay. So that's...
Yep. Okay, cool. Nurse corroborated the black lady on the ottoman.
Well,
I mean, that
must
could
be true then.
That could be taken out of context.
Well, first of all, that's a decent memory of the 3-year-old. I can only but assume that if they were 3, this recollection would be something that was handed to them.
Yes, she did say that she doesn't remember this, but her mother keeps telling her this story of her as a child.
Of course. That makes a lot more sense.
So this is a third-hand haunting.
Do you know what?
Fourth?
I'm not sure if we've covered this already, so forgive me if we have, but it reminds me how easy it was for me to invent worlds myself as a child. Like, I used to go out bushwalking, tracking through the forest when I was 3, obviously. I would, I find it really easy to, know that it's a fantasy, but, get really immersed, in the fantasy.
Hey, imagine if that mound over there actually had a door in it and there was a bunch of gnomes hanging around.
Yeah, but being able to visualize and have such a vivid imagination, twirling around a stick and pretending it's a sword type of thing.
Oh, heck yeah.
That I actually have good memories of my fantasy worlds that I constructed for myself as a child. Although, funnily enough, I never had any imaginary friends. I wasn't that popular.
Oh.
Kidding. But no, I never had any imaginary friends. I'm sure I created like characters in those like mystical realms, but we weren't having in-depth conversations about life or anything. It was, more like one-liners. But it's interesting.
You're practicing your stand-up routine already at 3 years old.
Yeah.
In the forest.
That's funny. But it's interesting that I had the ability to like switch into that mindset and really embrace it.
Yeah, it's called boredom.
So anyway.
Also, just a little aside there for me as well. I did have a friend as a child, and I remember them, and then I was told later on they were imaginary. That was a real blow, that was.
Did that actually happen to you?
Yeah.
Wow. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I remember the friend and all. I only have one solid memory of it, running around the primary school yard. So I was in school by that point, which is a little worrying. Yeah, anyway.
Do like primary school?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like I'm probably talking like reception or year one.
Yeah, right,
but
sure.
Still, there's other kids that I could have had as friends rather than making one up.
Well, I feel like that's a natural thing. If anything, I'm jealous. There's a part of my brain that thinks that the grass is always greener.
Yeah.
So my first thought was like, I didn't have any imaginary friends. God damn it.
No, I'd say it's akin to like finding out Santa isn't real, finding out one of your childhood friends wasn't real.
Not Sammy. He was the only one I played bubbles with.
The next house we lived in was a large country house standing in about 50 acres of land called Melton. Yeah, this family is rich, right? On the whole, this house was singularly quiet, except for 1 or 2 occurrences. When I was about 5 years old, 2 cousins came to stay with us. The eldest, Elizabeth, was a girl about 16 years old, so an adult to her, and probably to the legal system of Ireland at the time.
I heard this quote the other day that when you realise that 500 years ago the world was run by people that lived up until like 30 and were drunk all the time, it makes more sense.
Yeah, it really does. And the youngest, a little older than myself. They slept in a double bed in the nursery, and I slept beside them on a small stretcher. Before I go any further, I should say that Elizabeth was psychical.
Psychical?
Psychical.
This word, psychic?
No, not psychic. Psychical.
Okay.
This is going to come up a few times. It happens a lot in this book. I think it's just the old word for psychic.
One would hope.
Yeah. The few stories mentioned the SPR, the Society for Psychical Research. Like it was an official government body at the time in Britain. Also, Ireland was in Britain at the time. So times have changed.
I wonder what it would feel like to be psychical.
Yeah. Well,
if you just have psychical feelings.
I think it's...
Psychical premonitions.
We'd call them sensitive these days, I suppose.
Bit on the nose.
Oh, no, I mean, oh, no. Not as a sensitive disposition, but sensitive to the outer worlds, the other planes.
Okay. Psychical sensitive, right.
Okay, yeah, like a medium or something, I guess.
Right. I took it that very differently. My bad.
It's all right, I'm normally on the end of those ones. So Elizabeth was psychical and had seen many queer things, but never up to this at Melton. One night, she woke up about 2 o'clock with a horrid feeling that someone was standing beside her bed. She saw nothing, but presently felt a hand touch her. She's in the bed that her sister is also in, so I wouldn't be particularly surprised if she felt someone else.
It feels like they'd be wealthy enough to have a few beds.
Yeah. Oh, I guess the aunt has to stay somewhere. The nurse has to stay somewhere. Well, they've just moved in.
So you're telling me they have a nurse, but they don't have quarters for the nurse?
Yeah, I don't know.
Nurse on the cheap? I don't know.
So the nurse may not have even come with them. I'm talking
nurse
about my
not included.
they're not part of the house. They're not peons? No. What's the word?
I don't know where you're going.
I'll leave it at peons.
I don't know where you're going with this, but I think it was quite common at the time for an estate to have staff.
Yes.
So if you were staying at a house, the staff would actually be employed by the estate.
Yes, and if you sell the house, the servants get sold with the house.
Exactly,
yes.
yeah. So
Serf.
Serf. Yeah.
That's what that person's called.
When I looked into the history of England, I was very surprised at how prevalent slavery was in England. They were very prone to enslaving people that lived on the land. So it was serfs, right? I wonder if that comes from Roman culture as well.
Oh, look, until a whole bunch of countries got together in the very, very modern recent history and said, hey, maybe we shouldn't do a slavery anymore. Slavery was just everywhere. Everyone did it.
Yeah, but it's
terrible.
This is some dark areas, but I guess it's interesting that when we think of slavery as something where they, for lack of a better word, imported slaves.
Yes.
You know, that they went and took people from their native lands to bring them over and become servants.
Yeah.
But it was really common for them to have slaves that were, locals as well. So I think
anyone who's super down on their luck, they can sell themselves into slavery if they wish.
Yeah.
Even put a contract, like, I'll be a slave for 5 years. And then at the end of that, you've got to employ me. That was a very common contract.
Yeah, no, it's interesting to look at that sort of history. I'm very thankful that we have abolished slavery, and I think it was such a horrible thing to have in human history.
And we still have it. We just call it capitalism.
Yeah. No, I feel like that can be true as well. And to jump out of this very treacherous water, let's jump back into something a bit easier to talk about.
And back to a double bed with a spooky person standing next to it and a hand touching a child. Oh, God.
Yeah, I heard it.
Okay.
Said out of hot water.
Yeah. She saw nothing, but presently felt a hand touch her. Bracket, I forgot to say that the room was lighted, as the door was kept open, and a large lamp stood outside on the landing. End bracket. The hand passed up her whole body and over her face, and she lay there absolutely frozen with terror. You fucking would, wouldn't you?
Wait, do we have to put some sort of warning on this episode?
Oh, there's a content warning on every episode, yes. Just then I woke up, turned round, and sitting bolt upright, cried out, "Oh, look at the burglar, Elizabeth! He's standing beside you!" Then I started to cry, and she had to shake off her fears and get out and soothe me. Well, the victim of that story changed real rapidly.
I think victim's the clear word there.
Yeah. The thing appeared to vanish then, because when she got back to bed, nothing more happened and she fell asleep. I think maybe Dotty's just having a dream.
Bad dream?
It's absolutely, yes. But a dream. In the morning...
I'm not even going to remotely comment on that.
In the morning, she told herself that it was all a dream, either on her part or on mine. But when my mother came into the room, I informed her that there was a nasty man standing behind Elizabeth's bed in the night, and that I was sure it was a burglar, or, as I pronounced it, a bugler.
Yeah, I'm not going to comment on any of that. So if we could just move right along.
Yeah. Fearing lest she might frighten me, Elizabeth pretended to me that I had dreamt it. But privately, she told me...
Does this get worse? Because it feels like it's going to get worse.
No. But privately, she told my mother what had happened. Certainly something must have been there, because she felt it and saw it. Some years later, when I was about 13 years old, I was going up to bed one night, again, with the two cousins before mentioned. The landing in front of me was in darkness, and the only light we had was a candle held by Elizabeth. I was going gaily ahead, and we were all three laughing, when suddenly, out of the gloom ahead, A ghastly, white, malevolent face appeared. It hung in the gloom exactly as if it were suspended by the hair. I was horror-stricken, and flinging my arm across my eyes to shut out the sight, I bolted back, very nearly hurling my cousin down the stairs.
So now this is a ghost I can get behind. You know, just one that really just wants to terrify you. Like, yeah. You know,
spooky floating face.
Spooky floating face.
When I looked again, it was gone. But sometime later, when I was back in my house residence at Alexandra College, I saw the very same face hanging in the air on a dusky landing on a dark evening about 6 o'clock, and the appalling wickedness of its expression left me speechless. So she's being followed by a spooky floating face.
A spooky floating face.
I suppose there's worse things to be followed by in this story.
I only hope that if I ever encounter a spooky floating face, that I will have the fortitude to stand there, stare that thing back in the eye, and say, what is the afterlife like?
Always with the good questions, yes.
You know? I feel like you want to be in a mindset where you can study the apparition as opposed to bolting away. I'm not saying that I will have that fortitude. I'm just hoping that that could be a chance that I could.
Do you think you would have had that fortitude at 16 years old?
Hard to say.
Yeah.
Depending on the hormonal change I was going through on the day.
Yeah. One day you might have tried to swing a punch at the spooky floating face. The other day, you're still turning the light switch off and diving under the bed covers because something might be under the bed.
Another day, I'm just trying to hide my acne.
Yeah.
Don't look at me!
That's what was so spooky about it. I am the ghost of puberty now.
I don't think this is something that anybody should actually do to themselves.
Oh, God.
However, the thing that I used to do for acne was I used to get, like, body scrub.
Uh-huh.
And I would just, like, go ham, like, on the acne with the body scrub.
Yeah.
Really, really scrub as much as I can and scrub everything down. And then I would get cologne and then I just slap that stuff on.
No.
And I just essentially attempt to, like, cauterize my face.
Scrub and burn the acne away.
Scrub and burn the acne away.
Now, did it work?
I think it did.
Okay.
But I also feel like there's a lawsuit in it if I spread this message, so maybe not.
Yeah. No, we do not recommend this, listener.
I do not recommend this.
No. But to go back to Melton, twice I heard my name called. Once when I was helping Janie, the housemaid, to make a bed. Okay, so I think it's different to the nurse, but they still have servants.
Okay, so they still have a housemaid. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
They still have staff.
Yeah. The housemaid, so just one, perhaps. One housemaid, one butler, one stable boy, one valet.
You gotta have a valet. Come on now.
Yeah. No one else is allowed to drive the car. They've only just been invented. They're dangerous. The rest of the family had driven off. Oh, yeah, look at that. Had driven off downtown. So they did have a car. And the cook was out with the fowl. So, yes, they also have an in-house cook.
And fowl.
Yeah. I don't think that's necessarily unusual.
No,
Having some chickens.
I used to have fowl.
Foul mouth.
Boom.
Still do, shithead.
Jesus.
I'm sorry. I don't know what's going on.
Burn.
Burn like that cologne.
But no, I was in fact referring to the fact that I did have chickens.
Oh, really?
I did, yeah. Growing up, I had chickens.
Nice.
Fun fact, I had chickens that laid blue eggs. I can't remember why they did.
What?
But I think there's like a special type of breed. I mean...
Is that real?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, cool.
I mean, I know because I bred chickens. I didn't breed them. My family did, but I mean, I fed them, cleaned out their cage occasionally. I was a part of the process.
Yeah, look at that. Oh, there's multiple Australian chickens that lay blue eggs. Neat. Oh, sorry, I'm just having a little Google. They are really blue.
Really blue. The great thing about having chickens at home is that it's nicer quality eggs and you still have the chance to get the double yolk. I haven't seen a double yolk from the supermarket in like friggin' forever.
No, I think they've got machines that can figure out which eggs have the double yolk and they separate them and sell specifically double yolker packs.
Really?
Yes.
Oh.
Yup.
How dare they? Yeah, that used to be such a rewarding thing as a child. You break an egg open, it's a double yolker. It's like a great day.
Yeah. Really makes your morning. Suddenly, a voice called out, "Dorothy!" We both heard it because Janie said, "Why, there's the mistress calling. She must have forgotten something and come back." So I cried out, "Yes!" and ran downstairs. But there was not a soul there. Another time, a cousin of mine, an English girl, and I were standing near a bookcase in the breakfast room. They have a room just for breakfast?
Surely.
Okay. I'm less and less sympathy as this story goes on.
Do we need sympathy? Do not answer that.
She's dead. It's fine.
Sure. Actually, I think that kind of makes sense. I know...
You want one dining room that gets the morning light, another dining room that gets the evening light.
Well, bear with me for a second. I think often people will actually have... Like, we kind of do, right? Like, we've got a relatively large kitchen. That kitchen includes a table.
Yes.
That would be a place where we could potentially have, like, a breakfast room. If you...
Okay, do you call that one big open room, though, the breakfast room?
No, but I feel
No,
like
it's the kitchen, right? That a table is in.
But I feel like you could.
Okay.
But I know, but like I think when I hear that, it conjures up a room that is like next to or near the kitchen, or it's a bit smaller, a bit cozier. And then they might have like a grander dining room that would be more for the dinner meals.
You're saying that like it's reasonable. You're correct, but that's still insane.
Well, I'm just saying that, like, I feel like right now I live in a place where I've got a slightly cut down version of that. Right? You know, because I've got a fairly large kitchen. It has a table in it where you can have breakfast.
Yes.
And we're right now sitting around what would be the dining room, which, to be fair, doesn't get used and is turned into my office temporarily at the moment. But in theory...
So you have one room that is three things. It's a dining room, an office, and a recording studio. Right?
That's right, yeah.
As opposed to having two rooms that are one thing, a dining room.
It would be reasonable if I had the finances for it. I don't know why this has turned into a podcast about me complaining about if I was only that rich.
Yeah. Anyway, what happened in this breakfast room? Okay, so another cousin, an English cousin of hers, was standing next to the bookcase in the breakfast room, hunting for something. We were absolutely alone in the house, as the servants were hanging out clothes and everybody else was away. Rich, but not very responsible with their children. Like, it's not just the 3-year-olds that they weren't worried about. It was just the children that they weren't worried about.
Oh, the children. Don't worry about them.
Yeah.
Surely one or two will survive.
I'm not moving past there that servants is plural. So they've got 2 people that hang out clothes.
Do you ever hear that saying, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater?
Yes.
Do you know where that actually comes from?
Oh, no. No?
No, that actually comes from when they'd like fill up a bath and, you know, they have like the kids and the oldest would get the bath first.
Yes.
And then the youngest after that until like they'd wash the baby in the remnants.
Yes.
Right? Is that something, is that what we call herd immunity or something like that? You know,
it's called better than before they invented that system.
Yeah.
Which was no baths.
So the baby was always the last in the bathtub.
Uh-huh.
So when they were like to go to throw out the bathwater, they had to remember that the baby was still in it.
Okay.
Yeah. Which the fact that if you couldn't remember where your baby is, maybe that's more telling of the time.
This is a Catholic family, isn't it?
Oh god, it reminds me of a Monty Python sketch, but I'm not sure if we.
I think we've probably made that joke before. Every sperm is sacred.
Yeah.
I'm sure we've mentioned that before. And then a voice called out, "Adelaide, Dorothy." Oh, so her English cousin is called Adelaide.
Great name.
That's where we live, in English cousin. And we both cried, "Yes!" quite involuntarily, before we realised that the house was empty. So we rushed out and hunted the house from attic to basement, but couldn't see a soul.
Was this her and her like 2-year-old cousin? Or?
Yeah, it doesn't say how old the English cousin was.
Kidding.
Of course, we thought that the servants might be playing tricks, but we found them in a lane a long way from the house, and the men were in the kitchen garden. What? Oh, you know what? No, kitchen garden does make sense, I guess. If you've got, like, the entertaining area of the garden and the vegetable area of the garden for the kitchens.
So just to touch on that point that I made before, yes, this house did come with stuff.
Oh, yes. This is... Yeah. This ends my personal experiences at Melton, but 2 other uncanny things happened there. One night, the coachman had driven my cousin, myself, and the servants to a concert some miles away.
Oh, to a concert?
Oh, sir.
Lovely.
Daddy, can we go see our music? Leaving in the house my father, my mother, and my eldest brother. They were peacefully reading when they were all surprised to hear someone run downstairs into the hall and laugh. Such a devilish, evil laugh. And there is nothing so loathsome as a nasty laugh.
So true.
They took a lamp and, going to the hall, searched about, but could see nothing, so they went round the house, but found every place locked up and quite peaceful.
I feel like that's me sometimes before I go to bed.
Just checking everything?
Just checking every door. Thinking that me checking every door is making my house into some sort of Fort Knox-like situation.
Well, it just means you didn't accidentally leave a door open, which is better than not, I suppose.
It's true. It's true. We got awoken once in the middle of the night
by an evil laugh.
By an evil laugh, indeed. No, but a rustle in the house. And
what was he doing there?
Sorry,
what was he doing there?
Doing like Russell Crowe, or
yeah, sure.
No,
throwing the phone at me.
But no, so we're doing some construction at the moment. Mm-hmm. And for whatever reason, the garage door was missing.
Okay,
because we had to take the garage door off its hinges to allow people access through the garage. And so we were in bed sleeping, and I think that I forgot to lock the side door to the house.
Okay.
We heard noises like in the house, like in the house a little bit that woke us up. And I think my wife and I put like the light on or something. Mm-hmm. We got up, had a quick look around, went back to sleep, and didn't think about it. But then the next day, when we got up in the morning, I went to have a look at the door, and the door was still ajar.
It was probably just a cat or a possum or something, right?
That slid a glass door open.
Oh, you didn't leave it open?
No.
It got open. Oh God, no, dude. Ugh.
So we just thought that someone saw the construction work and thought maybe the house was under construction, so they broke in. Well, they broke in to like try and steal something, but they didn't think that the house was occupied.
Yeah, and then the light comes on. They're like, oh fuck.
Yeah, and then got out of there. But honestly, I feel like we got over it relatively quickly because we put
locks on the doors.
Well, yeah, sure, but like we put 2 and 2 together. We got 4. We realized that like
it was a ghost.
We put ourselves in a vulnerable position, and we just needed to focus on making sure that didn't happen again. And we haven't had anything happen since. And I think the fact that all it took was a rustle and a light for that person to be scared off as well was
Yeah, they're not coming in there intending to harm you. They're just seeing if they can take something.
Yeah. Horrifying, right?
Yes.
But we've got all of the various protections and locks and garage doors again set up.
The door's back.
Yeah, so we're not worried about it now. But it was a funny thing to go through.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad everyone's okay.
So far, so good.
Yeah. The last thing that was heard there was rather peculiar. It happened to my mother. It was at night, we youngsters had gone to bed, and the servants were out for the evening. Going to see a concert, perhaps.
Oh, a play, a concert.
Oh, we'll give the servants the night off. I don't know why I'm making them English. They're clearly Irish.
We said we weren't going to do Irish accents.
No, you know what? I take that back. There's a good chance these people were English.
Okay.
If they're living well in Ireland at this time.
Sure.
Yeah.
Also, I don't feel confident about doing an Irish accent, nor do I even want to.
No, I'm not going to try it. Oh, just you wait until we start the book True Scottish Ghost Stories, then I'll be in trouble.
I don't know where the bounds of offensiveness can be. But considering my background would be English, I can feel the Irish hatred as I say this. But like, I feel like our bloodlines must have been mixed at some point. I mean, like very far back.
Yeah, it is the British Isles. There's a lot of...
I'm sure there's some Irish mixed in there. Well, maybe not Irish, but the people that came before the Irish and the English and everything. I feel like there's some roots.
Well, here, for example...
Or is that just something like you can say that we're all human and we're all related?
Well, there's a bit of that, too.
Yeah.
If you go far back enough in history, everyone's moved everywhere.
Well, you look very similar. Like...
yeah, white.
I was going to say that.
But okay, so half my family is Scottish, and my grandmother's maiden name is Morrison. Now, Morrison is not necessarily a Scottish-sounding name. If you go far back enough, they reckon that's probably from a Viking family, a Norse family that's come over. It's because there was Morris and then son, right?
Didn't they used to say that red hair came from like Viking origin?
Yeah, quite possibly.
So being someone that has red hair, there's a good chance you'd have Viking heritage based on that.
Yeah, Vikings invaded those isles a lot. An awful lot.
Yeah.
They kind of ruled them for a bit.
Potentially procreated and stuff. That makes sense to me. If there's any historians out there with more of a grasp on this, then please reach out, because otherwise I'm just going to be spouting this ridiculous stuff.
I'm going to chuck out a podcast reference. Hardcore History recently did a series on the Viking explosion of the 900s and 1000s that goes into a lot of those details. It's probably about 9 hours long, but it's all interesting. Okay. It was at night, we youngsters had gone to bed, the servants were out for the evening, and everybody else was assembled in the breakfast room. Fucking breakfast room. I guess it's the dining room as well.
You know, it was only last year when I realised that it's called breakfast because it's break fast.
Yeah. Ta-da! So technically, if you first eat at like 1 p.m, as some people do, that's your breakfast.
You're breaking fast.
Suddenly, remembering something she had to do in the kitchen, Mother started off to go downstairs. The kitchen was in the basement, and as she opened the door at the head of the stairs, she was rather astonished to hear the taps in the sink being turned on and the sound of running water.
Isn't that funny?
That happened here too.
Yeah, totally. Actually, that's interesting. With those bigger households, they used to have the kitchen out of the way because it's the servants that would produce the food down in the kitchen.
If you've seen Downton Abbey, I think a similar setup there. The kitchens are certainly in the basement, but it's like kind of built on a bit of a hill, so you can still get in.
I was thinking that too, yeah. There's like side doors to the basement.
Yeah.
But they used to have those like dumbwaiters.
Yes. Yep.
So you could put the meals into a dumbwaiter and then, pulley it up to the location that it was going to.
Much, much safer than attempting to carry a platter full of food upstairs in a busy household with servants going up and down.
As much as I feel for staff that had been put into places like that, it does feel like it would be cool to stay in a hotel that had dumbwaiter.
Yeah. I think the closest we get these days is a laundry chute, which is still cool.
Goes
not
the other
as
way,
cool.
yeah.
It's a one-way dumbwaiter.
One-way dumbwaiter.
Thinking the maids must have got in without being heard, she ran downstairs to find an empty kitchen and the taps in the sink unturned. Nor were there any sign of running water or leakage anywhere.
Sign of a good kitchen.
Yeah, but also ghost taps?
As we experienced here, obviously, yeah.
Well, no, because your tap actually did run.
After it was turned by the ghost.
Yeah, but we saw the tap was running.
We saw the tap running.
This woman is just hearing sounds, I think.
Yeah. So you heard it here first, folks. We saw the tap running. The tap wasn't running.
Correct, yes. We saw a faulty tap one day here.
The tap turned on its own volition and started pouring out water in front of all of us.
And the cat was nary to be seen.
And still we have a disbeliever in our midst.
Yeah. I didn't see it, Ollie. I didn't see it.
You must be the only person not facing that way.
Yeah. I was face down in food. It was delicious.
Just so you know, and it never happened again.
No. And also it happened in the breakfast room.
It did.
Before leaving the subject of Melton, I must relate what happened to my nurse in the back avenue one evening while she was out chasing a runaway hen. She had an elderly friend a woman called Dora Shine. This woman was ill, but it was hoped she would get better. I mean, you'd hope so. Like, Dora's ill. Hope she dies. What?
She's also admittedly not getting any health care. So this is more of when there's a catastrophe and that people send their hopes and prayers.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what these people do for their staff when they get sick.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely.
You're like, oh, you're unwell? Hopes and prayers.
Hopes and prayers. Put an ad in the classified for a new nurse. My nurse, Mrs. Duke, was not thinking of her at the moment, but she looked up, and who should she see walking up the lane in the front of her but Dora? Oh, she is better, and has come to see me, said Mrs. Duke to herself, and hurried after her. Dora promptly climbed the ditch, and when Mrs. Duke got up to the spot, she had vanished. She felt then that something was wrong, and the very next morning she heard that Dora had died just at the time that Mrs. Duke had seen her. Ooh. Look, I'm going to do a little teaser for later sections of this book. There's a whole chapter of stuff like that, of people appearing remotely before, during, and immediately after their passing. So there's a strong tradition in Ireland of, I think they call them death signs, of like a ghost appearing somewhere at the moment of death.
Right. I always think of it as like a little light that, comes out of their chest and hovers up. Little ball of light, yeah. That's what happens, isn't it?
Yeah, sure. That's where the 23 grams goes or whatever.
That's right.
Yeah. I know nonsense.
You know that came from a study.
It's breath. Now, this marks the end of Dotty's first two houses. She'll be moving on to a third house for a whole another several pages of haunting fun. We're going to have to get to that next time, though, on...
Second-hand haunting.
All right, yeah, I really